everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. Today's topic is going to be managing Google Docs within your classroom, and it is presented by Michael Wacker, who's one of our Google Apps for Education certified trainers and a Google certified teacher. He's also done a webinar for us previously as part of our professional development webinar series, and we're super excited to have him on the line today. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the presenter privileges over to him, and we can learn a lot more about managing our classroom using Google Docs.
Hey, see my screen right now? I'm sorry, I'm a little difficulty here.
You share it now, Michael.
Okay. Okay, one sec. All right. Thank you so much for your patience. Sorry about that. Hey, a little bit of background. I'm really excited to be talking about this today because one of the things that comes up pretty often for me when I'm working with teachers or working with is, okay, we released Google Apps or we released Google Docs, and then all of a sudden my doc page and my kind of I call it like your digital pin to flex has just been completely amok, and now I have nowhere to no idea where any of my documents are. I have no idea who I've shared things with, and the only thing that I know is that the most recent is on top, but it's just become a bit cumbersome. So I found myself often talking to folks about how to kind of set this up digitally with labels, and then recently Google upgraded and there's no more folders, it's now collections. So it's actually pretty exciting to get to them and show them now that there's even more possibilities that. So we'll kind of today look at how I share, what do those rights give me as somebody that is sharing. This is going to be at a beginner level, so for the intermediates and experts in the room, I'm hoping you can put a couple little nuggets of good out of this. We'll also get kind of the management piece. So when I'm putting them, how are people accessing them, and how do I find them after? And then that kind of goes into search. We all know Google's really good search, and it's more dynamic and excellent format as well. And then we'll hopefully spend some time actually going and looking at some of these tools. Okay. So if you have questions, I think the questions will come at the very end. But if there's anything that you want to add or if there's anything pressing, let me know, and we'll try to jump in there right away. And I just love this picture sharing. I love any pictures really of a couple of sharing, but sharing made easy, and that's definitely something you can say with confidence that Google does and Google Docs does really well. It takes a lot of the layered permissions and concerns around what happens if this goes. How do I make sure that my document stays private? Those things. And the good thing with it being it's I don't want to say dummy proof, but it kind of is. The settings are that you can publish it to the web. So that's where anyone on the internet can find and access it via either a tag or a specific URL, and then no sign is required to be able to see it. Another is the anyone with the link, and this is kind of the basic. I have a document that I want to share with a group of people either in a meeting really quick or in a space, and I'm just going to send everyone the link and decide if I want them to be able to edit it or just view it just like that. And then private is where you explicitly grant permission. I'm not going to go sharing, but if you set it up to where anyone with the link and then anyone can edit it, there can be anonymous edits going on throughout. So if that's an issue, either in your school or you're going to avoid that and actually go with the private, explicitly granted permissions. Okay. So when you do use anyone who has the link can view, you are given the link in an email, or you are given the link to either send an IM, an email, or to post your whatever you want to do. You will have the ability to use Gmail, Buzz, Facebook, Twitter, and you still, even though you already said it, so that anyone wants a link and view, you can give and add people and give them explicit permissions right there. But we're going to actually look at this link that we're given, and you notice that it doesn't even, I'm not even able to capture it all here in this picture. That's a mighty link to be sending in an email, and while I haven't had the issue, I know that some people, when you get a link this long, are like, there's no way it's going to work, or the maybe email truncates it, or something missing. So this is a little bit overwhelming, I think. When I am share it is I then go to gmo.gl, that's Google's URL shortener, and you can see the URL directly into there, and it gives you a nice, short, tight, sensitive URL link to. It also, to the right of that box, you can actually see it here. To the right is there's an option for advanced, so you can go in and pull a QR code from there. Like I was saying, the permissions and the sharing, you have this layered levels of permissions to where you can really decide how many people you want to be able to access it. You can do a couple different spots. One is at the very top of the document. And on the right-hand side, click on the little share button. You have the option of sharing settings. So you can email one, email as attachment, or publish it directly to the web again. You still decide that you can add people where you can enter their names. And a little box down at the bottom that sometimes gets overlooked is something that says editors will be allowed to add people and change their permissions. You can change that feature right there to the right if you see where it says change, which can be helpful. So then the feat is underutilized, and I've touched on this I think before with this using in your sharing. So sharing the same document with a lot of people, there's a couple different ways to go about changing that, go streamlining that process. One is to create groups directly, and if you are a district that maybe doesn't have Google Groups turned on, there is a workaround, and I wanted to show that right. You choose from contacts, and then as you start adding names, you get the option to save as a group. And I click Save as a Group. You can name the group. And when you go to enter the addresses, or when you go to Most Contacted, you can choose the group that you want to share with, and you can quickly blast out. This is helpful, again, for teachers that are teaching multiple classes, maybe 5-6 hours, 5-6 different classes, and you want to be able to quickly blast out a document, all those groups. Setting up groups saves you a ton of time and a teacher. Okay, so now the file and the management structure of the documents. I think it's important to have a standard naming scheme or naming convention. It'd be school and district-wide, so that it just became a norm for the students and for the adult working that, okay, this document, name it with my and then maybe my name and then the assignment name, or how I want to do it. But taking the time to really set up and thoughtfully set up your naming conventions for your documents, your sites, presentations, etc., is a huge time saver in the long run. Kind of clear, and we'll look at that in a little bit. When looking at search, it allows you to quickly search a student or a class period's documents. This is when the collections are folders. But it allows you to quickly kind of search those, and it also allows you to kind of know where and what students maybe have not, or what haven't shared with you. So naming conventions is definitely on the. You're going to be working with an entire class. Make sure before you even create your first document that you explicitly share, like, here's how we're going to be naming our document, our shared. That's a nice note. Another great way to kind of streamline the document process. So instead of having to share documents all the time with students, you set up templates ahead of time, and the students can find it. They can choose to use templates. You can keep them in your district and use the templates there as well. But it's just a three-step process and then two kind of next steps. The first is when you go to you have the option to submit or to use with a template. Keep it that any changes you make also will change on the main template page. But so you'll create the template and you submit it. The opportunity for you or your students to browse for other ones and to go ahead and use the templates. Naming templates, those are the first two biggies. Templates, and if you are creating exemplars, etc., for students, shared collection or a shared folder and make view only. View only allows the viewer students to go in and look at the document and then make a copy of it for themselves. That's a really simple, easy way to do it. And if you share that folder with all of your classes, then everyone would have access to the same collection of templates, exemplars, etc., without having rights. Okay, fast. Talk too fast. But so we look at collections. Collections is the new folders. Like I'm off the top, there's really been some changes, which is why it's so awesome. But one of the things that has changed is the naming from collections. So if you have a collection, the opportunity to kind of do a lot of different things within that collection. But the one thing is that it is, your 20th century kind of filing cabinet. It's your file structure. The ability to document into collections and folders, the work off of you for having to go find it. But once it's there and go in and you share those permissions to that entire folder, you never have to do that again with any document that goes in there. I keep calling it for collections, super important. Options that you have when you go into yours. So we're taking a look at this ePass team. Same familiar document where you can share, and you can star it. This is all in the old layout. You could change the color, and that might be a huge deal off the bat. But again, the ability to use different colors for different folders, different classes, different assignments, etc., can be huge with teachers that are already dated with a ton of documents in their desk, and it makes it overwhelming. Another thing also in the collections that I really like, which is this used to be called hide this document, which makes it sound like you're never going to get it again. But by making a folder or a document specifically, when you click and you go to don't show in home, so you see it there. Or look dashboard, you deleted the document, but you have kind of put it out of sight. So in its folder, so it's not kind of, again, that overwhelming 500 documents looking at one time. It's a little a little bit easier. I was talking to Chris Bell last night about this very thing, and it's pretty funny, but he said that now I don't have to delete anything. I can keep my dashboard and my front page looking, and all I do is just kind of hide, or I could just file them away or mark as not just at home. Basically, anything is like being a pack rat. Since how do you organize them? How do you color code them? To you, if you do go to a set design for the school for your kids, I think that's a great idea. But it's more important that you are just kind of able to quickly navigate and find your documents, or your folder or your file. Okay, so where doc? So you receive the document, you put everything right, and now you can't find it at all. Well, sort now, and there's a lot of different ways to look for your documents and files. A while ago, we were given the ability to upload videos, images, and all different kinds of documents. It was great, but again, it was making it really hard to find, those images and videos. There wasn't a drop down for that. Well, now you can actually use a really cool sort feature on your main dashboard that allows you to sort by documents, allows you to sort by either images and videos, and then the more options, which we'll look at, is the sharing options. So how is this visible to everyone? Is this published? Is it in your link? So you can kind of go and pull documents that only fit these certain criteria. Then do that as a standalone, so you can pull up documents and then pull up images and videos and that sort of thing. But you can actually pull up documents, you pull up your spreadsheet, then go over to and say, I just want to see the ones that are public. You can kind of search that way. Really cool. So the other thing is important when you're going in and looking and kind of sorting is the left-hand side you have your kind of basic navigation page. When you home, think of that again as what I've referenced as the main dashboard. So when you go, you click on home, that's going to pull up all of your documents, except for the ones that you've chosen to hide or so showing home, that'll show up here. Another neat bit to do is you can star your documents. So it's something that you want to quickly be able to go quickly back to. You can start and it'll pull up all of your documents that are starred. A lot of similarities. If you're like a Power Gmail user, if you are visual Gmail, then you're going to be really comfortable with the new kind of Google setup. A lot of the same languages, and able to start is really helpful. So I mentioned Google is really good at search, and we should take advantage of that. So if we know the name of the document, there's no sense in going and looking in a folder or looking at a label or checking a different sort of ways. You start to type, and I literally took less than 1 second, and I had 9 possible documents that popped up really quickly. If you click Docs, you can then go there a little bit deeper, and you can search templates and that sort of thing as well. There it is. So if you go on your whole search, I was looking for any documents that I had referenced professional development in. So type that drop down from next to search docs. I can also search public templates. So I can search any template in that is public that has professional development or has professional development in it. And then all from within that search box in your Google Docs dashboard now, and you can also browse the template gallery. So we looked at by documents, we looked at a way to sort by images and videos. You can also, by using tabs and filters, sort by, those I mentioned, by whether it's owned by me, whether it's shared by me, not in collections, etc. And then if you look at that, as I referenced earlier as well, you can see that the difference to build on themselves within the docs. So if I went to the right of where it says owned by me, and a specific text or something specific, still have to be a presentation. It would still have to be owned by me for a search to be pulling it up. And another way, too, that you can kind of leverage the search feature is that at your results, you can, on the right-hand side, you can sort it. You can either sort it by relevance or by last modified. We'll look at the new dashboard here in a minute, but one of the things that feedback from folks is that the new kind of sort by is not as user as the old one, whereas the old sort by would pull up the most recently modified document, going by priority or by relevance in this case for so research. And then actually Jim still pointed me towards this, and there's more of those kind of know from Google search, from google.com, but now you can actually do it directly with your docs. The one that I kind of wanted to draw some attention to is the from and to. Something is shared with you by someone that in your department, and you typed in what you thought was the name, and nothing came up, and you thought to put it in your folder for your class, your department, and nothing is pulling it up. You can say, I know that Bob was the guy that sent this to me, so you can start to type in from Bob, over his Gmail list, and it's just those documents that are specific to him. So just another kind of really cool way to be able to search within your dashboard to kind of organize and deflect your file cabinet and to still kind of be moving on. Go ahead and jump into Google Docs now. I think this might be time to ask questions before we look at the new interface, and we can kind of to dive in a little bit. What do you think?
Sounds great. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box, and I will ask them to Michael, and he can show you whatever you want to see on Google Docs. And just as a little bit of a heads up, like Michael said, the user interface for Google Docs has recently changed, and we have gotten feedback about the new features like the sort by feature. And at Google, we're constantly innovating to make the project better, the products better. So please don't worry, it's going to get better, and it's continuing to get better. So here we have a question. So when a middle radio button for sharing within the domain, the document does not appear to others in my domain. What am I doing wrong?
The document within the domain, and it doesn't show up right away, or it doesn't show up at all?
Sure. Maybe the person can expand on that. Oh, no.
So sometimes, and this is something that I've actually had good conversations with Dana around, is I'm told that it's something being worked on, but if you tried searching for it, help the document pull up, again, you're right, when you go back to the search, but actually start to search for that document, and it can pull it up at least once, and if you star it, it'll stay in your document folder. Okay. So just kind of do a little run through. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with new features, and I am an expert at all the new features, but I did want to kind of point out those things that I referenced in a presentation. Particularly that it's now called My Collection. So if you have documents that are specific to like this is my district. Instead of looking for my folders, now it's just My Collection. If it kind of freaks you out and you want your old docs back, if you look on the upper right-hand corner, you can always revert back to the older version. And that's a little feature. For one, if you like I mentioned too, is if you use priority inbox in your Gmail, then this kind of feels a lot more Gmail-ish. Like, for example, I have the Google webinar printer right here, and I have a nice visual and a breakdown of all the rights and things with this document. So if I'm into documents, again, I can click on text documents, and it only pulls up text documents. That's a name, which is, again, full to give it a name. It's not just documents, it's a text-specific document. And then I can start to type in my documents, but then only pull up the text documents. Other features I showed you, the images and videos. Click on there, and it pull up your videos that you've uploaded, and then the more options. So I want to see anything that's not in a collection. Actually, I probably don't want to see anything that's not in a collection, but I want to see anything that's public on the web. So I'm going to pull up all my documents. Again, you see the layered search. All my documents that are public on the web. Directly from here, I can just hide and click document, and on the right-hand side, I have a breakdown of what the document is like, its selection, and if it's in a setting. So I can quickly slide this document into a collection if I'd like. So again, string, and then going to the list and looking at public documents. So if I search public templates that are the word professional, it's public templates. This same familiar look and feel, so you can also see templates that you've used or my templates here as well. Okay. All so they're even hidden. So if I've hidden a collection, or if I've hidden a document, it's going to show up over here in my all items, but it won't show up in my home, as you see.
Great. So another question we have is there a way to push shared docs to others so they actually show up in their docs without having to search for them?
If it's set up, so it sometimes depends on if an app's set up, it could depend on whether Gmail's turned on. If it's that could be a layer. It's automatically. It usually takes like a second or two, and whole folders or whole collections take a few seconds longer, but should be pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'll confirm that. As long as you share it with an individual user. So if I wanted to, make sure that Michael sees it in his docs list, then rather than just sharing it with a domain, then I would share it with that individual user with Michael, and that way I'm ensuring that it will appear in his docs list.
One that I kind of brushed on in the presentation, I just want to make sure that I really clarify it for folks that are going to be using it, is the ability to share a collection or a folder, entire group or individual person. And so, say I want to share this folder, I could go in, click share, quickly. We have my sharing settings, so I have a couple people that have edit rights to this entire folder, and it's private. So I could add more people or another group here as well. The other thing I wanted to show too as well is the visitors will be allowed to add people and change their permissions. If you click on change, it does give you that second layer. So either you're inviting people to be editors, you can set it so that only the owner can actually change their permissions. Okay.
How do I get to a dashboard?
So when I reference the dashboard, that's kind of this home page that I'm talking about. It's, to docs.google.com. That's going to be your default dashboard of where you have where you could be showing your images or your videos or files or all Google Docs right here. So that's not the best term for it, but when I think of the dashboard, I think of like kind of where everything's going on.
A docs list sometimes, so it's a list of all your documents. So
docs list, nice. With now too, right? If you do add videos, when the thumbnail pulls up on the right-hand side, you can actually play the video directly from within there too, which is nice. Or you can click on it and it'll play in your. Really fast was it the big things that to remember are to make sure that you're in the collections, that you're color coding it for yourself and for your students, in the naming conventions, and then set the sharing so that it's easy for you. If that means you're just going to drop documents into a folder, and that's how people access it, then that's one way you can do it. Or setting up the groups is really a super helpful way.
To reiterate that naming conventions, personally for me, that was the best way to rename my docs or to name my docs and keep them orderly in my docs list for my students. Is there a size limitation on the videos that you can upload?
Probably take that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of my head if I know one. If you go to our support site, which is google.com/support/A, and I'll put that in the chat. Then and then just look up on size limitation of videos, then you'll be able to find that really easy. Okay, we have a question. Can you actually show us how to add a collection and name it?
Yes. I said that I can, and now I go back to where I was. Yeah, great. So I should have put that in there. If I want to create new, I get a new collection directly from there. So if I click on collection right here, it's going to be what I want to name it. I can, like this for test for webinar. And then on OK, and you'll see that it comes in default as a kind of grayish color, and it falls down to the bottom. Right now, there's no documents that are in here. If I want to start adding documents, say I wanted to share all this stuff, notice too that your collection comes up to the top of the page. I'm going to put the webinar, and I wanted to put this document in there. And lay permission so that here's the two documents that are in there. So now anything that I choose, I can add the sharing settings, and I can make this public. Can't imagine how useful that is, especially when I referenced to make templates and examples for your students. Even if you don't want them to be able to edit it, it's great to be able to have one spot, one folder where a student pulls up maybe the 25 exemplars for the class or for a specific project, even if it's just one or two that they can look at. But to have a place already set up so that you're not sending them out to different spots or sending or trying to individually invite students by setting up the collection to have any way to include here, whether that's group or whether that's a contact, then that's how they're going to be able to get access right there. So I could actually change the color to this if I wanted to.
And harping on that a little bit, I'm going to share a collection with you. It's like a sample collection of student work. So another way that we've seen school districts organizing their docs is students can create their own collection and then make sure that their teacher is shared on it. So let's say, I'm a student and my name is Molly. And so, Mike, if you go into your collection shared with me, you should be able to see Molly's work. Maybe it hasn't appeared yet. If you refresh, maybe it will.
I should have searched for it. Oh. Yeah.
So if you click on her folder now, if I'm Molly, every time I do a project, I can just drop it into my shared folder. And so let me just point out how that might look. So I'm creating a new document. It is a project. Thing. And so doing that, I added my item into my student folder. And if we search for it, if we refresh it, then when my teacher goes into that folder, you'll be able to see my new image. And so if you just open the doc really quick, Michael, and needing to work on it, my teacher can see exactly what I'm typing, and that goes a little bit more into, collaboration, and my teacher can add comments. But, I really feel like shared collections are really powerful in the K-12 space. So I wanted to make sure that we really highlighted that, even though you touched on it a lot, Michael. Okay, now we have 10 more questions. So enough of my tracking, and we can go into the questions.
To piggyback, actually, I'm sorry, just on what you're saying, that is probably an underutilized way of including parents and cross-curricular teams that might be working with a student, and instead of passing around, a folder with some student samples, you could actually just share the document with your, cross division teachers or parents. So.
Cool. So the other question, does a person you share a Google Doc or spreadsheet with need to have a Google account to access?
Can I take that one?
Yeah, you have to have some sort of Google account. So whether it is a Google Apps for Education account, which we highly recommend, or just a Gmail account, you'll be able to access the Google Doc. But it depends on, obviously the sharing settings. So if a user is using a Google Apps for Education account and they're not allowed to share outside the domain, then you would need an account within that domain in order to access the document. But if it's just a public document, then anyone with a Gmail account would be able to view it.
Yep. So the ability to set up the preview or set up the viewer. I was going to have that.
Oh yeah.
Handy. So if you have a document that you want to share outside and folks don't have, they won't be able to edit it. But if you use the Google Doc Viewer, enter the document URL, and then they will, even without a Google account, be able to access that document.
And you also have those previews in Gmail, so if someone shares a doc with you, then you'd be able to preview it as well. Another question is, can you tell when the document was created by the sample student?
So if I go in to the document, for example, I look here. Sorry, see right here that the last time it was modified, my computer was yelling at me there. See the last time it was modified. If I actually open it up, there might be a faster or easier way to do it, but the way that I do it is go straight into the revision history. And it's the first, when she first opened up, started to type, and then when most of the edits were.
Yeah, that's the best way to figure out when it was created. Before you get off of that, the next question is how do you insert comments into the student paper?
So if you want to add a document or add a comment, say end of the sentence, you just simply put your where you want the comment, and then you go here. I gotta get out of this. Sorry. You want to add the comment, then you click insert and then comment, or you can shortcut as well. It'll plop. So then if I say here, when I clear it takes me right to that comment. So even if there's like 50 of them on the right-hand side of your page, this kind of, what would that be called, anchor? The anchor's going to pull up the comment right away. So right there, it's going to pull up my logo. That's your insert and then comment.
Did you address before?
Oh, yeah, the revision history. It's also kind of been, we can't see it now because our document's kind of boring, but we had a lot of revisions. Revision history has gone through some changes to where it does a better job of identifying and even the layers within a certain section. So you can kind of dive a little bit deeper into who's been doing well on the document.
Another question. Good questions here. So, a few housekeeping ones. This webinar will be available later. I will send out a follow-up email tomorrow with a link to the recorded webinar. Another question is, so should each student have one of these collections to share so that you can access it as a teacher? So that's just one way of the documents, is having each student have a collection to access, or you can do different naming conventions and have different projects stored in one collection as well. So it just really depends on how you want to manage it as a teacher.
Say it's it goes right over this as being in education. This stuff is really so important. So if you're like me, before when you first logged Google Docs, you were just so excited you didn't do any setup, then your board or your docs list just looked like a mess by December, January. But if you kind of like explicitly and like direct, I guess too, like you say, this is exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to look at our naming conventions, and you really actually teach that, and then you teach how to set up a collection, and you teach how to share your collection with anyone that you want would want to access to be able to view those documents. It's going to go a long way towards them feeling organized in their docs and in their docs list, but also you too will start getting kind of a better product. So it's really important to kind of do the front loading of the work, like setting up your groups as the teacher, setting up your collection, and then really teaching the students exactly what you mean when you say, now we're going to set up our collection.
Awesome. So another question is, how can you share with students when they don't have email addresses if your district prohibits student email?
I would use is this a Google Apps or just general?
But just to add that onto that, if your district prohibits student email but is comfortable with them using Google Docs, they have to use the email section of Google Apps. All the apps in the suite have an on-off functionality, so you can turn off Gmail and just leave on Google Docs. Each student will still have an address, like mollyw@g1usc.org, and you can share it with that user, and it will appear in their docs list, but they just won't get an email saying that document has been shared with them because email has been turned off. I'm just going to let you the question, but please clarify if you meant something different.
No, that's perfect. That's also where like I showed the workaround for groups where you set up when you're in a document, you just start typing in their name and then save as a group. That's a good way to get around that as well.
So the question is just, how do I get started with Google Docs? Do you need to create an account, a domain, etc.? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely create an account and a domain, and I would find out what's already in place in your school or district first. If there isn't anything, it means that there's there's definitely a handful of teachers that are close proximity to you, either teachers that you know or work with, or that are maybe in your building that are already using it, even if it's not a district-wide solution. So go in and ask them how they set it up, what they did. Do they go with an app's domain, or are they using the public? And in the public, be mindful of the age of your students. That's one of the great pieces or great benefits of Google Apps for Education is it's at least with, I think there's more not all the time, but a handful of states. Colorado's one of them. It's rubber stamped as okay to use with students, and even like to go and use this with your students. So I find out kind of what's the hesitation, and to start having those conversations.
I just put an email address in the chat window so that if you have any questions and are looking for someone at Google to help you set up that domain, please email us at that address, which is education-solutions@google.com. I want to make sure we answer as many of these questions as we can, so I'll continue on. Does the color assigned to an item or collection propagate with the share?
Meaning, like I align, like my green is shared with more people, or does it if I share it, will it go to that person in that same color?
That's what it means.
You want to test it out?
I'm not sure.
You want to try to mark that collection though, like color that collection, and see if it shows up a different color?
That makes sense. I'm gonna go.
I think it's personal, actually. I'm not. I don't know. I feel like this is my little color coding.
I'm pretty sure it's personal. So just mark that collection as red. It's personal, so your color coding just matches up with what you decide. And the next question was, did view versus edit extend to item colors? No, those are specific sharing rules, and you have to, specifically share each doc with that. But let's say you had a document in a collection, and that collection has a specific sharing setting, then what document is in that collection will, maintain the properties of the entire collection. Did that make sense?
It does.
Is there any way to confirm whether or not someone has viewed the document?
Said a lot. Not that I love. My usual. I usually just kind of push back, like, well, why? Only they go in and open it and change or make some change does it actually recognize that they're doing something. It could just be as simple as clicking into the document, and it would show saved seconds ago by the user. But there's some Google Apps Marketplace that do that. Whole nother session though.
Yeah. Another question is, we are a dual language school. Do inserted comments accept text in other languages? All languages?
Can convert comments to a different language?
Yeah, or just, but I think they're just asking like if you can just type them in a different language.
I don't think so. See what it looks like when I try to do it. I just translated this document in the copy of the original, and it does. That's cool.
Awesome. You learn something new every day. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know that the comments would stay with it.
The actual document and the comments, and maybe you can just once again show the wide variety of languages that we accept, because they ask us to languages.
So again, I go into Tools, and then I click on Translate Document, and I have the option of language that has Google.
Yeah, so tons of languages.
The fun ones though, not Pirate and Alpha and those doing the search.
Yep. So I'm seeing a lot of questions just in general about, creating Google Apps accounts and not using email. So I'm just going to talk for, seconds, give you the very high-level overview of what the difference between Google Apps for Education and a personal Gmail account is. Apps for Education is a branded account, which means that it's not at gmail.com or at google.com, but it's at your school domain or your school district's domain. And the difference between that and public Gmail is that an administrator can have control over your Google Apps for Education account. So if you're a teacher or a principal or administrator, then you'll be able to, access the various accounts within your domain. And, to obtain, all you have to do is go onto our website and sign up your domain for a Google Apps account, and then we can upgrade you to the Education Edition if you are a qualified education institution. And then to reiterate, if you just want to use the Docs portion, which Michael is showing today, you don't need to turn on Gmail. So as an administrator in the administrative window, you're able to turn off and on the different services for Google Apps. So you can say, I want to turn off Gmail, off Calendar, off everything else, and leave on Documents. Your students will still have an address, so michael@g1usc.org, but they won't be able to access the email or the calendar portions of Google Apps. They'll only be able to access the documents portion. Just a very high-level overview, and just please go onto our website if you have any questions, or email that email address I posted earlier. So another question is, sheets and graphs get inserted easily for science type reports. Can you add them into the document?
Or actually like graphing, like a spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Really easily. You can drag and drop them into documents and presentations now. As far as in a sheet, you have a plethora of options as far as what you want what kind of graph you want to be doing. So it has all the same power and capabilities that Excel has, and with the with a server search power engine in the background. Like graphing and things you do in Excel, you can, I shouldn't say that, but just about everything.
Following up.
No, I was just going to actually create a graph, but that's really boring.
wants to see if you can create a graph.
go to an existing one then. And documents, I'll go into spreadsheets. Sorry. Okay, so look at say, no, I'm trying to be full of what I can pop up here real quick.
Cognizant of time, it's after 5:30 already.
Jump.
Answer something right now, then we will, in that follow-up email, we'll also have a question and answer document where all the questions you submitted, we will put in, we'll put answers to in a doc and share it with you. So as a final question, I just want to, I guess this one I missed earlier, but can you set up sub-collections, like naming a classroom and then having, a sub-collection within it?
Actually insert collections within collections. So let's do that. Create a new one again. This one, new collection. And slide this collection right to all my apps. I can actually slide it into an existing one. Test for webinar, and I have new collection within test for webinar. So again, though, now being mindful of your sharing privileges. So if test for webinar, for example, this collection is publicly viewable, if I put another collection into it, I'm going to be making those publicly viewable as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael. I certainly learned a lot being on the webinar, and it looks like other attendees have as well. So thanks so much for joining us today. And once again, this webinar will be available online, and we will type up the transcript for the Q&A session, so that if we did get to your question today, we will make sure that we answer it in the Q&A transcript. But thank you all for joining us today, and thanks again, Michael. This is the second PD webinar I think you've done with us, and we hope that you can do more. So.
Awesome, it was fun. Thank you, guys.
Okay, guys.